I now call upon our eminent guest for the day to kindly deliver the special address. Please, sir.
My goodness, what a welcome. Thank you very, very much. I think to the distinguished chairman and CEO of the group, I extend my thanks, and specifically to Principal Sir and the head of the English, and of course the English faculty. Our assembled students, thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to share some thoughts on literary clubs and literacy in general. It's a wonderful time to think about literary achievement, literacy. We stand at a unique moment in world history. More people than ever before are reading and writing than in all of recorded human history. I think we all know that we celebrated the independence of India just a few days past. In 1947, when India became an independent nation, only 18% of the population was literate. Now in 2018, the situation is exactly flipped, and 82% of our Indian brothers and sisters are able to read and write. In other words, since independence, we have completely changed the picture of literacy in India. And school also used to be something only for the few. In Tamil Nadu, we have very, very high school enrollment, and amongst college-aged youth, the enrollment in higher education is 50%, thanks in no small part to the efforts of Principal Sir and the backers of VEC. So for this half of India's population, which is under the age of 26, of which I see so many fine members in front of me, this is a new world. The way that we interact with the written word has changed. And you see this in a WhatsApp message, of which 55 billion messages are sent every day. So, all of these forces that are changing our world, urbanization, changes in the global economy, now India is growing at twice the rate of my home country in terms of economic development. The social changes and technology changes. How many of us here have geo internet? I'm very curious. Geos. Yeah, so cheap access to mobile phone data has changed how we interact with the word. We are no longer speaking on the phone, we are surfing, we are texting, we are writing messages. We expect taxi drivers to be able to read maps. We expect moviegoers to read subtitles. Reading and writing are around us like never before. 5 years ago, I took a train journey from Chennai to Nagapattinam, and I was up all night. The phones were ringing, people were talking. I took that same journey about 2 weeks ago. The train was silent. Everyone had their headphones in, were reading their Facebook, checking their news, watching a movie. 5 years, and yet the way that we interact with a train ride is completely different. And our behavior is changing, and the expectations of the corporate world, of the world of work that many of you will enter very soon, have also changed. I'm sure you're aware that automation is changing the kinds of jobs that are available in every sector, but especially in 3 sectors. Unskilled office work, construction, manufacturing. These are sectors which used to absorb thousands of job seekers every year. Those jobs are going away. The backhoe, the tractor. If you drive on the streets of Chennai, you see heavy machines where you used to see a man in a lungi with a hand shovel. So those jobs are gone. But for us as well, the cell phone and email have eliminated many of the office jobs that we used to use as our first step into the corporate world. But while those jobs are being eliminated, new jobs are being created. If you search on Naukri, There are 16,000 job openings in digital marketing today. If you search for AI programmer, 7,000 job openings. There are lots of jobs that are out there, but the nature of the work is different. So what does this mean for us as college students, soon to embark upon our corporate career? Well, language skills, specifically listening, speaking, reading, writing, the LSRW, are more important than ever. The jobs that are being replaced, those jobs which are no longer available, they tended to be routine, unskilled, and easy to supervise. The jobs that are being created are what's known as cognitive non-routine, which is a fancy way of saying the jobs that are being created are jobs where you must think independently and you must communicate with your manager, who is not looking over your shoulder. In fact, often the managers of today are going to be in another office, another state, another country. So laborers who are making bricks don't need much supervision. I count the bricks, I pay them the money. Bricks are pretty easy to understand. But with cognitive jobs, much of what we do is about explanation, is about communication, and is about presentation. If I want a job in marketing, I have to be able to tell a story. I have to understand complex requirements, and these are jobs that are not easy to supervise. How do I prove to my boss that I have done a good job of writing a report? It is about deploying my LSRW skills with confidence and with fluency. And if your supervisor is not from your part of the country, we can be quite sure what language they want those LSR skills to be in. And I'll give you one small hint. It's not Hindi. So proficiency in LSRW is going to be crucial for your growth in your corporate career. I think you know this, but let's go one step further in that communication skills and the kinds of skills that you develop in this literary club, where you can express yourself, where you can listen with understanding, where you can write and present. These are the skills that will be more and more required in your future career. Problem solving, decision making, collaboration, argument, and not argument like angry argument, but argument as in persuading the other person of the strength of your ideas. These all require very strong thinking, but thinking without communication is really not worth much. I've met some nice rocks. Who knows how well they're thinking? It's up to you to express yourself. So yes, I'm not from India, but I've been based in India for 8 years now. And in that time, I visited about 100 schools and a few colleges. And I can tell you from personal experience that the Indian student is amazing. There is nothing wrong with the brains of the young people that I see every day. I've seen young Indians achieve at the highest levels, at world standards. And I know that the students, and not just the students, but the educators, our esteemed faculty, are making very sincere efforts to help us all succeed. But I've also seen that many students struggle to fulfill their potential. And there is a communication gap. It's real, and it's persistent. Let's look quickly at why. We've already seen what kinds of skills we need to have in the 21st century workplace. We know that they are cognitive non-routine. Let's look at some examples of these skills. How many of you have seen job listings or have heard or read news articles about big data? Yeah, so analyzing and summarizing data is going to be very, very important. Just showing a graph is no longer sufficient. We have to draw conclusions about what that data means. Storytelling, not just for marketing, but in terms of persuading your boss of the merits of your approach, is increasingly important. And these storybooks that we read as children, the great literature that we've explored in our literary club, These are actually developing skills that will be very valuable in the workplace. Debating, justifying, giving reasons, proposing a new initiative, solving new problems. This is what the world is demanding. If it has been solved, I can find the answer on the internet. It is the new problems that you will be confronted with. And having visited so many schools, I see that many of the students who arrive at college have very little practice in these kinds of challenges. The school classrooms in India that I have visited have mainly been vernacular medium. 83% of all Indians study in Tamil medium, Hindi medium, Telugu medium, vernacular. I often see very teacher-directed lecture where the students are sitting nicely, very quietly. And this phrase I had never encountered, mugging. I thought it had something to do with a mug. Apparently not. Rote memorization is very important in our Indian school system. One-word answers. My exam paper was one-word answers. It took me many years to understand what that means. And then the other thing that I think has been a challenge for some of us is that English is a subject. It's not a communication medium. It is something that we study in school, like we study biology or we study maths. It is not a tool that we use in our daily life. So the result of this is that in your schooling, the majority of the students, when they reach a college like VEC, I found that you're very good at receptive skills. Listening, reading, excellent. But where we struggle is with productive skills, which is to say, speaking and writing. We live in a golden age of literacy, and yet creative writing and formal communication are very rarely taught in our schools. And only once we come to college do we have a chance to develop these skills. In most of the schools that I've visited, students are not asked to speak their mind or write a creative story about their own thoughts. And outside of class, these are wonderful kids. They speak and write like mad, but mainly in their home language. So what is needed to equip our young people with the LSRW skills that they need to be successful in the corporate workforce? Well, fortunately, many of you are well on your way. I was very pleased to hear the lovely remarks by our president of the club and your fellow students. Introduced me very sweetly, thank you. But I'd like to leave you with a few thoughts about 3 habits that I think will serve you well. At STEP, we have been doing a lot of research on what is required to help bridge the gap and improve your communication skills. Number 1 is immersion in the language. English as a subject is not sufficient. Seek out opportunities to expose yourself to English, whether it's English TV serials, English movies, reading English books. The more exposure, repetition, and usage we get in a language, the more comfortable we become. We have heard our home language for years and years and years. And yet, during those years, we have studied English for only a few hours. Give yourself opportunity to immerse yourself in a key language of corporate communication. Another thing that we have learned at STEP that has been very useful for our program participants is practice with feedback. I see that many students in India are reluctant to speak in public for fear of embarrassment. I don't want to make an error, sir. We have to throw off this habit. There's something liberating about being able to practice and try, and yet oftentimes I see people making fun of others who are not fluent in the language. The way that we've solved this at STEP is by having a computer in the middle. And there's something about speaking into a computer or a cell phone that people find very liberating. But as you go out into the corporate world, I'd encourage you to practice with each other, and don't be afraid of making mistakes. The third thing is that India needs personalized training. As I look around this room, I'm sure that I'm looking at 100 villages worth of children, and that we have come from many different places. My colleague Gitanjali's parents are from Tuticorin. parents, of course, are from a long way away. And we all have different skills. So what is right for the person sitting to my left may not be correct for the person sitting to my right. And the range and diversity of our ability is something that we should recognize and accommodate. 2 years ago, when I was working on this program for English language training, one of the things that we thought was very, very important was to make it personalized, because the vastness of the Indian experience is very diverse. And then we went out and actually tested that. We said, well, what is the real story? And we used artificial intelligence to automatically grade 200,000, 2 lakh students to benchmark our product. And what we found, having tested 2 lakh students in the ages of 18 to 23, is that the typical Indian college student is a 6 on our step scale of 1 through 12. Okay, what does that mean? Well, a typical corporate is looking for someone who's a 7 or an 8. In other words, we're close, but perhaps not quite where we need to be. And within a single college, what we found is that students vary from as low as a step of 3 to 9.5. So in fact, in every college, there are students who are more skilled than what a corporate would expect. And there are students that have a large gap between what is required by the employer and where they are now. Now, in every case, young people are able to bridge that gap with effort, with practice, with dedication. And I'm very confident, looking at these faces, that you'll do extremely well. Whether you're combining your own individual effort with a formal program like we have at STEP, hold this thought in your head. Our literary problem, our literacy problem, is not that we can't read and write. We send all these text messages, we read our advertisements, we read the newspaper. These things are not difficult. What we need is practice in cognitive tasks, in creating language, in coming up with new ideas, in expressing ourselves freely. So I want to end with a call to action. Please, 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 put away this idea of Peter English. I want you to go out there and speak English with confidence, without fear of making mistakes. There are 1.5 billion people in this world that speak English. Only 360 million of them are native speakers. In other words, those people whose home language is not English far outnumber the native English speakers. And English is an Indian language. There are more English speakers in India than there are people in England. But we're not confident, we're not practiced, our vocabulary is decent, our command of the language is good, but our willingness to speak it sometimes holds us back. So get out there, start talking. Thank you very much.